Hey, what's going on, guys? It's John from SOTA-Native. I'd like to welcome you to our first ever SOTA-Native kitchen. I'm going to be making a shrimp Alfredo over penne noodles, possibly a tostini. As much as I love to fish, I love to cook. So I'm actually pretty excited about this. The more we catch and the more we bring home, the fishing season kind of straightens out after the hurricanes, the more cooking with what we catch will be coming into play. So anyway, like, subscribe, and as always, thanks for everything. Let's get cooking. All right, so first things first, we're gonna have to thaw out a little bit of our shrimp. I've seen a lot of people do this several different ways. The best way, I guarantee, is a cauldron or a strainer, a little bit of cold water, let it run, break your shrimp up. You do not want to put a bunch of shrimp in a bag and just fill it full of water. It gets a really fishy taste. Okay, well, in a skillet behind me on the stove, I have a half a stick of butter going to render it down. It's on low heat. I think mine's at a 3 right now. I'm gonna go ahead and start getting my bell peppers. These are pre-washed. They're ready to go. I got 2 medium-ish, smallish shallots. I might not even use all of those. 2 medium bell peppers, probably not going to use all of those, but it's going to be like 1.5 and maybe 1.5. So first things first, you're going to want to start getting your bell pepper. And we'll go with a half and see how much that is. Now, when you're dicing this, it has to be super fine. Super fine. You want this bell pepper and these shallots to fully reduce down into the butter. You do not want them to turn into little hard chunks of bell pepper. So when I say really fine, if you look, that is almost the width. That's actually a little thinner than the blade of the knife there. So, and then we're gonna stack them all. And we're gonna start chopping super fine. You want them to liquefy. So if you hit a couple extras, if you hit it in the same spot a couple extra times, it ain't gonna hurt nothing. I'm gonna get these all chopped up and we'll get right back with you. All right, well, I got my bell peppers all chopped up super fine. I got my butter reduced down over here. Okay, and it's crackling. So we're gonna go ahead and add the bells first because they need to go ahead and reduce on down. Okay, so now it's on to the shallots. These have to be diced just as fine as your bell peppers. So in the back behind me, I had to turn my skillet up a little bit, throw in my other half a stick of butter. I got them simmering away to try to liquefy on down. They're gonna take a little bit longer than the shallots will. Shallots are super tender. We're gonna cut the root off, cut the stem off, and then we're going to take this thick peel. They smell super strong, but I promise they're not as strong as like a red onion. They look like a red onion. I used to not use shallots, and then Mr. Gordon Ramsay said that they're better for cooking, so I'll take it from a pro, right? So we're gonna split this in half, and then again, we're going to super fine, almost like a razor blade kind of fine, and we're gonna chop this all down. I ended up using 1 1/3, I guess, of that medium-sized bell pepper, and now I'm up to a full stick of butter in my skillet. The butter also has to be unsalted. You cannot use salted butter. This dish can get super salty, especially with the shrimp. They're salty. Parmesan cheese is salty. Romano cheese is salty. So we're trying to cut a little bit of the cheese out. Plus, unsalted butter does not scorch as badly or as fast as salted butter does. So we're gonna stack these all together. Like I said, it doesn't really matter. These things will make you cry too. So it doesn't really matter the shape of them. You're just wanting them super finely diced to where they will liquefy. All right, so you see here they're starting to liquefy down. Now, you see how fine those chunks are. Those will all pretty much liquefy by the time I add everything I need to. Like I said, we're up to a stick of butter that is unsalted. I got my 1 1/3 medium-sized bell pepper. We're gonna go ahead and throw our shallots in. I believe that was 1 1/2 medium, smallish kind of shallots there. So we're gonna let this reduce on down and liquefy all of this. I know it seems like there's a lot of stuff in there, but I promise it will liquefy. So since we got our shallots and all that stuff in there, everything's coming together real nice. One thing that is a big help with reducing this stuff down is adding sea salt. Not a ton. Like I said, there's a lot of salt in the things we're putting in, and I don't like when my food is extremely salty. So you're gonna wanna add a little bit of sea salt. And here in just a little bit, we're gonna throw a pinch of garlic. You can throw more garlic in it. My wife cannot have garlic, so I tend to slip a little bit in secretly. Don't tell her. Okay, now this is really starting to cook down here. This is about the time I add the garlic. If you add garlic way too soon, it will burn or scorch. So we're gonna take, like I said, you can always add a little more. I don't put very much at all. So that's about how much I put in. It's not even a teaspoon, I don't think. Okay, we got that in there. We're gonna throw a little bit of pepper. I'll throw a little bit of fine ground pepper. You don't want coarse ground pepper. Now my shrimp that I thawed out are over here. They're nice and soft. We're just gonna lay them in this butter and these bell peppers. And then we're gonna use this buttery, bell peppery base for our sauce. So we're gonna go ahead and throw these guys in here, kind of tuck them in. You don't want to be super hot. If you're super hot, you're gonna burn all of your stuff in there, and then it's gonna taste like a burnt smorgasbord. And shrimp do not take very long to cook. If I'm in a time crunch, wife is begging for this, then normally I would cut them in half so they cook super fast. But you really don't need to. In fact, I might have actually pulled out too much shrimp. So as soon as we get these in here in this butter and all that, we're going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a cap to help steam it so it cooks a little bit. That'll help render some of these bell peppers and shallots down as well. Alright, there we go. They all found a home. Alright, while we got some downtime or we're waiting on our shrimp to go ahead and do their thing, we're going to go ahead and cut this up to get ready for like a tostini, I guess is what I've heard it called. So you're going to want to get a French baguette, and we're going to start cutting it on a 45. And you don't want them super thick. You're going to want these thin as well. We're going to pop them in the oven. We're going to cut the whole roll down that way. Okay, we just finished up cutting up our bread. We're going to jump back over here and look at that. So if you look, the bell peppers are starting to render down. The butter is now a reddish color. So we're going to start turning these guys over a little bit. Let's get the other side. And here soon I'm going to pull these out. I don't want these in here cooking while I'm starting the boiling and thickening process of my sauce, because then these will be like shoe leather and they won't be nice and soft. And you got some really beautiful shrimp that just went to waste. So, and you can pretty much tell they're done. They're starting to roll over. I'm just going to throw a little bit of color on this side. I haven't added anything at all. Some people throw pepper on right now. I would not throw salt. That is one thing I would not put in here, but you definitely can. Your peppers and shallots have enough flavor along with that little bit of salt that you've put on top of them when you started this rendering process. Okay, so now that all the bread is cut, at least the portion that I would think we're gonna eat, you see they're not that thick. They're kind of cut on a bias. So we're gonna line them up over here on my baking tray. In this Tupperware right here, I have salt, pepper, and olive oil. You can add whatever herbs you want. You can do oregano, and I can't believe I forgot that. You can do oregano. You can do an Italian mix of spices. I like my stuff simple because I really don't want to take away from all of the work I'm putting in the skillet over there. So we got these. I got coarse ground salt and coarse ground pepper in my olive oil. Pick a good olive oil. It has a softer, more buttery taste to it, and it tends to want to crisp a little bit better. So I'm just going to mix that up so everything's kind of stuck. And then we're just going to go ahead and baste some of that olive oil and pepper on there. You can also put garlic in here if you want. I don't know if you've been to Carrabba's and you have the bread that you dip in your olive oil. That's kind of what I'm doing. Our oven behind us is preheating to about 400 degrees. And I've also removed the top from my skillet. You do not want to get a lot of water from the condensation of that cooking down. You don't want that to get into your shrimp. It'll make your sauce extremely watery and not as thick and creamy as you would be hoping for. So now that we've got all that olive oil all over our bread, we're going to grab our Asiago. As you see, grab it from Detweiler's. They're family owned. They're here in Florida. Gotta love the native stuff. We're gonna throw some Asiago right over the top of that. You don't want a ton. This Asiago is pretty potent, and it is also very salty. So if you're gonna put salt on stuff, just I've made it last time or a couple times ago before I realized that, and it was just so salty I could barely even eat it. Still phenomenal, but so Asiago all on that. We're gonna throw that in a 400 degree preheated oven. All right, now we're back here to our skillet with our shrimp going. I got my tostinis in the oven at 400. I just set the timer for about 10 minutes. I'm gonna check it after that. So we're gonna pull these guys out and we're just gonna pop them in a bowl. I've got a little bit of butter over here, a little bit more. That would be a total of a stick and a half. I got heavy whipping cream. Definitely got to get heavy whipping cream, not half and half, none of that. If you're going to be eating something like this, you definitely want the fats in there for sure. As you can see, the bell peppers are all turned into pretty much like a liquid. What you're seeing the chunks of is the actual shell. I don't take time to take the bell pepper skin off. It adds a little bit of color to my sauce. We're gonna pull all these guys out and let them rest. They've been in there long enough. And right after that, we're gonna throw this half a stick of butter in here. Just give us a little bit more of a base to work with. Kind of loosen up the stuff that's stuck on the bottom. That's all the flavor. And I want to reuse this butter. I do not want to take this out. This has all the flavor of the shrimp. And we're just gonna throw that in there. I might even add another one. You want all the flavor of the shrimp in there. That's what makes it. You can make this by itself, just butter, bell pepper, and shallot. But what really gives it the phenomenal flavor is the actual shrimp that was cooked in it. So we're gonna go ahead and melt this down, get a little bit more fluids in here. I've also tried this recipe with chicken. Finely dice up your chicken breast and cook them. That way I had to go to a green bell to try to add a little bit more flavor to it because it is kind of bland. And like I said, I don't add a bunch of garlic and a bunch of seasonings. So I try to keep everything pretty well straightforward so I can taste what I'm eating. Okay, so now that butter's fully reduced, there's no more butter in there. We got everything all kind of mixed around. Got some stuff as a base. We're gonna go ahead and add our heavy whipping cream. Heavy whipping cream. This is the one I prefer to use. And I'm gonna say that we're gonna pretty much use the whole thing. I'm gonna leave a little bit in the bottom of it, just in case. I tend not to measure a whole lot of stuff. I tend to just go with the flow. Now we're gonna crank up our heat, and you see the butter and the cream will naturally separate, but we're gonna go ahead and pull this temperature up, and we're gonna start getting it to kind of blend a little bit. All right, so we're gonna get this up to a simmer. Now this part you do have to watch carefully. You can scorch this heavy whipping cream pretty easily. So as you see, it's bubbling. Everything's kind of blended together. These are just husks. All of the bell peppers, all of the shallots, everything's gone. So now it's time to start adding cheese. So we're gonna grab our Parmesan. This is about 8 ounces. This is about 8 ounces of Parmesan cheese. I like the shredded, I don't like the shaved. If I'm gonna put it on top, I'll put some shaved in there. But you see that's coming to like a rolling boil. Too much more, you're gonna scorch that, and then it's gonna, again, not be so good. So I'm gonna do it by the handful, and we're gonna kind of sprinkle it nice and even. You don't want big clumpy, you don't want to just dump it in the center and try to get it to spread that way, because it won't. As soon as it starts to melt, you'll have a clump of cheese. So I'm down to about 2/3 of Parm. And then on top of that, we've got about 8 ounces of Asiago, but I'm not gonna put nearly as much Asiago. Our bread also has it. So we used maybe about half of that. That's about 4 ounces. So 6 ounces of Parm, 4 ounces of Asiago. So you're gonna wanna start stirring pretty quickly. This is gonna start thickening up due to the cheese. Tostinis are smelling good. We got the pasta water boiling. Okay, so now you see our sauce is getting nice and thick and creamy. I turned the heat back down because you do not want to scorch this cheese. It's been at a 3. You got to stand here and stir it around and babysit it. But it looks like a very nice warm jacuzzi for our bowl of shrimp. So we're gonna go ahead and throw our shrimp back in. That fluid is okay, that's butter. It is not gonna hurt anything. And we're gonna go ahead and mix this around. Basically bring these back up to temperature. They were sitting over there still hot, but I want them hotter since they're gonna be in the pasta. I got the pasta going, and this doesn't look like my spoon's dragging through it right, so I'm just gonna add the rest of the Parmesan cheese right in on top. We'll probably top it with a little bit of Romano after we get it all mixed together. There's 2 different ways you can do this. You can do it from a skillet sauce and just ladle it on top of your bowl. I do it a little bit differently. I tend to dump everything into a bowl all at once and mix it around. Okay, I got my big mixing bowl. It's a big cluster right now, but threw a little bit of a pat of butter in my noodles just to stop them from sticking. We got them all drained out. So, and surprise, surprise, it's not penne, it's rotini. But hey, the sauce is the star, the noodle is just the backup. So that's the lead singer. I'll put my noodles in my bowl, and I would suggest taking it out of this pot and putting it into an actual mixing bowl. You do not want to have some of that left over down in your sauce. Now, And yes, I know my sauce is a pinkish red color. The reason being is it has red bells in it. And as this cools, it'll start thickening and kind of getting stringy and all that other stuff. You can use green bells, it'll change it to a little bit of a greener color. You can use yellow bells to keep it more of a yellowish white color. I like the flavor of red, so that's how I've always made it. And we're just gonna go ahead and dump that pot of awesomeness in there. Look how good that looks. And as it gets cooler, like I said, it's gonna thicken. The flavor of this is unbelievable. The buttery, salty, bell pepper, shallot, you taste it all kind of coming through. So at this point, after we mix it all in, this is when I will add coarse ground black pepper, kind of mix that in a little bit. My tostinis came out. They are absolutely gorgeous. Look at those. A little bit of Romano. They're perfect on the bottom. They're nice and crunchy and crispy. So we're gonna go ahead and start setting our plates. I'll go ahead and throw 3 little crostinis on one side. We're gonna grab our noodles. Couple big shrimp in there, and it's all mixed in. Absolutely gorgeous. Well, I hope you guys give it a shot. I hope you leave me a comment. You got to try this, I'm telling you, and you have to let me know what you think. This is great. See you next time.